Hi, I'm Glenn Crawford. I'm a CDFA, a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. I'm also a wealth asset manager. I'm a financial advisor. I'm an insurance broker. But when it comes to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, or retirement planning, or income planning, or estate planning, that's not the same thing when it comes to settling a divorce, to dissolving the marital enterprise. And what my firm does, Strategic Divorce Planning, is we do things that lawyers aren't typically equipped to do. For instance, how to value all assets properly. A lawyer can advise you on what you're legally entitled to, but they don't take into consideration the taxes, the risks, the liquidity, or the income. In other words, they don't answer the impact on your life in post-divorce. I think that's something that's very important to know. Our firm is expressly designed from the ground up to handle all matters relating to the financials of divorce. We're composed of CDFAs, analysts, forensic accountants, business valuation people, and CPAs. We can handle anything having to do with the financials. The result of our work is that you're more informed, and that's probably the best position you can put yourself in to make informed decisions. Most importantly, to understand the impact of those decisions in your post-divorce life. So ultimately, we save you money on legal fees, give you a clear understanding of how, why, and the best way to go about dissolving assets, and moreover, understanding the impact. And that's the question everyone asks, am I going to be okay? I'm going to give you a few what I call nuggets or isms that I think everyone should know about divorce when they're going through it. Any question you have will probably fall into one of these five areas. So jot them down. I'm glad you're here, first off. That says that you're taking a step towards getting your mojo back, taking a step towards your future, your next life. And I can tell you from personal experience that life can be great on the other side. It takes courage to change your life when your life isn't right. But if you've done everything you can to make your marriage work, and whether it's your marriage or your boss or some endeavor you're in, and you know it's not going to get better, maybe painful a little bit, but the other side is much brighter. I can promise you that. And that's no matter what age you are. I got divorced at 60 and I'm now living a great, great life. All right, so here's my five isms of divorce. First off, you're an equal partner in the family business. You and your soon to be ex have created an enterprise, a marital enterprise. Just as if you were in business and you wanted to dissolve or divest yourself from the business, you'd want to know everything about it. So one of my first nuggets is get yourself in a position of being informed. And secondly, if you're dealing with a narcissist, my second piece of advice is stay true to your cool, just like your school, because they're trying to elicit an emotion out of you, a reaction out of you. But if you come from a place of being informed and you're centered and controlled in your responses and your action, you put yourself in a much better place. Remember this, you're an equal partner in the family enterprise, the family business. No matter who was the big time wage earner or who was the CEO of the home, what you built together, you have a community interest in what you acquired, and you have a community interest also in what you incurred, i.e. assets and debts. The trick is, how do we divide it up in an equitable way? And I say you should divide it up in a way of understanding the taxes, the risks, the liquidity, and the ability to generate income so you can plot out your life and your post-divorce life. Second, everything in divorce is negotiable. The date of separation is negotiable. All the assets are negotiable. Child support is negotiable. Spousal support is negotiable. For instance, you can make a buyout of spousal support rather than paying spousal support of $5,000 over the next 10 years or $600,000. You can say, let's create a discounted rate and a present value for that. And instead of you having to write me a check or Venmo me every month on the 15th, and instead of me having to call you if I don't have my payment by the 16th and I can't pay my electric bill, why don't we call it, instead of 600K over the next 10 years, let's call it 525K and take it out of your share of equity in the home or some other asset that you have. So everything is negotiable. By the way, there's a 95% chance that you will reach agreement. Divorces are submitted to the court but you don't always have to be in court to get it done. In fact, 95% of the time people come to a settlement, so there's a great chance that you will as well. You and your soon-to-be ex can agree on anything you want, absent a judge, an attorney, or an advisor like myself, as long as one of you haven't lost their mind. Now, sometimes you might submit that your soon-to-be ex is cuckoo, but they need to be diagnosed as such. Number four, marital asset division is essentially final. You can't go back and renegotiate it unless you can prove fraud, which is timely and costly. So if marital asset division is final, that takes me to number five. You got to get it right. Now, guess what? I said you're a partner in the marital enterprise, and you are. Guess what you're going to be the day you sign your settlement? You're going to be the trustee, the fiduciary, and the CEO of the Bank of YOU. And I would submit that you're fully equipped to do that as long as you're working with advisors that can share information and digestible nuggets, and you can make informed decisions. That's something to look forward to. You can look at this circumstance as one of regret or pain or angst, but you can also look at it a different way. One of my mentors says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You can look at it like you have a clean slate. You got a white board. You can fill it with whatever you want. You can do things that you subordinated for your family or for your spouse. We're living longer. We're working out more. We're eating better. You got a lot to look forward to. You got a lot to give. There's a dark cloud over you today, but it won't always be that way, I promise you. This is a temporary circumstance. Look forward to being the trustee, the fiduciary, and the executor of the Bank of You. Some things you should know about dividing assets. All assets are not equal. For instance, they might be taxed differently. I'll give you an example. One party has 500K in their 401K, and there's also 500K of equity in the home. And you say, you know what, it's 500K on each side. Let's just swap it. Those aren't equal assets because they're taxed differently. A 401K is what's called a qualified account. It has not been taxed yet, which means it's really worth about 350K net. On the home, each party had a 250K tax exemption. If one party keeps the home, they still have a 250K tax exemption, which is only taxed at capital gains, not ordinary income. So that's 10%. So the tax implication on the one who keeps the house is 25K, and the one who keeps their 401K is 150K. I don't consider that an equal swap. I mentioned earlier, and I can't emphasize this enough, it's important to understand the impact of your decisions when you divide these assets. Understand what the taxes are, what the risk is, what's the ability to generate income, and how liquid are you in case you want to make a move or get into another investment. So understand the impact of dissolving these assets in your post-divorce life. Some of the key financial issues of divorce. How about getting prepared for it? Whether you were the one that handled the finances or not, you have knowledge of things you acquired and things you incurred. You can take down a sheet of paper or use your iPad, and the first thing I suggest is just write down all the facts of the marriage. What was the date of marriage? What did each of you bring into the marriage? Because one of the first things we have to identify is what is community property and what is separate property. So if you had homes or retirement accounts or inheritances or some other asset before you got married, it could be argued that that's a separate interest and not a community interest. So write down the facts. What did you bring into the marriage? What did you acquire during the course of the marriage? What did you incur or debts during the course of the marriage? Write them all down, and whether you can put your finger on them or not, as far as the statements, write it down. You may know that your soon-to-be ex, you guys invested in a real estate timeshare, or that you get a month in the corporate Jackson Hole cabin every year, or that there's 3 months of sick pay that have been accrued. Write down all the facts, whether you can put your statement on it, or whether you can get a statement on it or not. If you can, that's great. Get a statement, make a copy of everything. It's also important to put together a budget, and that budget should be devised to look at what your expenses are in post-divorce. Everything is important. We need to gather all the information. What are your Social Security benefits? What insurance policies are there in place? Do they have cash value? Are there any monies owed to the IRS? What are all the accounts, the investment, the banking accounts, every account that you can think of? Write it all down. How's the medical coverage being taken care of? As I said, we need to know your budget and post-divorce, because what I and my firm do is we take all this data and we put it together in a fashion that's easily understood. So you have a map of understanding what your life looks like on the day of divorce, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. As I mentioned, asset division is essentially final. And I gave an example of how home and other retirement assets, like a qualified asset such as a 401k, they're not equal assets because they have tremendous implications in terms of taxes. Create a list of all types of financial information that you can, both marital and premarital. I'm going to speak for a quick minute about a quadro, affectionately known as a quadro, QDRO, a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. One of the things we do is we're going to come up with creative division scenarios. The first scenario we're going to show you is always 50-50. No one ever does that because of the things that I mentioned. It could be costly and it can be foolish, to tell you the truth. But if we decide that we want to equalize one party in this relationship by carving out some money out of a 401k or 403b, those are called qualified programs because they haven't been taxed yet. The plan administrator for those plans will not just simply carve out money and send it to the divorcing spouse who's not in the plan. You have to put together something called a quadro, a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. It has to be written specifically for that plan. Our firm actually produces quadros as well. Once the quadro is produced, it needs to be sent to the plan administrator and it needs to be approved by the plan administrator. One big mistake people make is they wait to start putting together the quadro after they've signed the settlement or the agreement. I suggest if you come to that agreement before the settlement is actually in, that you produce the quadro and get it pre-approved by the plan administrator. That way, when the settlement is an order from the court, it's already pre-approved and you'll be able to get your money, because a quadro can take many, many months, 3, 6, 8, 9 months to get produced. Finally, there's the price of peace. The price of peace is, let's say that we put together a division scenario. The first one we show is 50-50. And then we start asking questions and have dialogue. What do you want? And then we look at creative ways to move things from one side of the ledger to the other side of the ledger so that it's an equitable division. It's never 50-50. Usually it's like 52-48 or 53-47. Why? Because along with the division, our firm produces an income analysis. This income analysis takes into account what you're going to make in your post-divorce life, what you're going to get or give in spousal support, what assets do you have, what real estate do you have, how much cash on hand, how much is retirement assets, when does Social Security kick in. We're going to take a big picture look at that, and we're going to show you that you're going to be okay. Now, the price of peace is this. If you decide to take 47%, you might say, you know what? What happens if I come home today and I close the door and that chapter of my life is over? I can get on with the next chapter of my life. I'm not going to pay lawyers or advisors to fight over the additional 1.5% I might get. That's called the price of peace. We don't want you to fight tooth and nail. We don't want you to spend $10 for a $5 asset. In fact, I won't do it. Also, we need to look at, okay, once we've decided how to dissolve the assets and we've looked at what life is going to be in your post-divorce life, we got to start building your financial planning wellness game plan back up. And we're going to build it from the ground up, like a financial pyramid. We're going to look at changing the beneficiaries on all of your policies. You probably don't want your ex to be your advanced medical directive on your will and trust. We're going to look at what part of your assets are predictable or guaranteed, and what part are speculative, and what if we need to go 7 years down the road when spousal support ends and it's 5 years before Social Security kicks in, what would your investable assets have grown to by that time? And so we know we could kick on some income to bridge that gap. All these things are important. I identify as a coach. I'm a big sports guy. And coaches believe in planning. They believe without a plan, you're flying by the seat of your pants. Without a plan, you're leaving some things to chance. And so I am a staunch believer, a huge supporter, in having a plan for your financial wellness and post-divorce. We can help you do that as well. Finally, this, as I mentioned before, is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I would urge you, I would encourage you, I would implore you to look forward. Don't look behind. Anything behind has nothing to do with where you're going and the rest of your course for your future. You got freedom now. You have a clean white board. Look at it that way. Now, listen, if you reach out to me, I'm happy to give you a 30-minute complimentary consultation to see if I can help you, and we'll do that virtually. And also, if you have that meeting with me, I'm happy to share a tool with you that is really it's a tool that will help you look at your financial assets, debts, everything in one place. And it can be used not only while you're going through divorce, can be a very useful tool in post-divorce as well. Again, I'm Glenn Crawford. I thank you for being here. I hope you have the courage to know, or the courage to know that you will get through this. It's going to be painful for a little bit, but I promise you, you will get through this. Again, keep looking ahead. I'm Glenn Crawford. Have a great day.